Happy Sunday, everybody. Thanks for joining our weekly community call for the Career Go, where we help enable and empower everybody to find the job they love. So, this call is going to be recorded and streamed on social media and YouTube. So, if you're not comfortable being streamed or recorded, please leave the session now. Our topic today is overcome your fear of public speaking. So, this community will boost your networking and practice and skills and knowledge as well. So if you're comfortable sharing your LinkedIn profile in the chat and connect with others who share their profile as well, that will help you grow your network. And I apologize for the background noise. My neighbor is just doing the lawn here. We work to help see everyone in a job they love, as well as find and use your full potential. So the call, Amanda is gonna speak for 35 minutes, and we'll open for Q&A. If you wanna limit your questions to 2 minutes to give a chance to other attendees to ask their questions, that would be great. You can use the raise hand feature or unmute yourself during the call. We'll ask you to mute yourself while the call and try to be on camera if possible. At the end of the call, we do a survey. It's a 1 minute. We wanna, hear your voice and see, how we can serve you better. And we also take a group selfie at the end for marketing purpose and also recognizing, this great event that is happening. So stick around and, be on the camera at least on the last few minutes if possible. If not all the time, that would be great. So this whole community is all about volunteering. So if you would be kind enough to maybe share kudos and recommendations on LinkedIn to the speaker and anyone you thought you want to share kudos, that would be great. It's also helpful for you in your job search journey. So our promise to you, you will get hired within 3 to 6 months if you keep showing up, if you keep attending those calls and applying what you learn and ask questions, be curious. Everybody is here to help you. Everybody is here to support you in your journey. You will not walk alone. So again, be curious and feel free to bring others to this community as well. This is all free and it's done to help you. So our goal is ambitious. We want to get 1,000 plus people hired in 2021, and we've already had people who got hired from this group. So again, it's an indication that this is working and it's helping. So again, keep coming, keep showing up. This will help you. So our ask to you is, engage and ask questions, be curious and connect with others. And if you want to check our previous sessions, we had great sessions about storytelling, resume, LinkedIn, networking, job search strategies, and lots more that would help you again in your growth. It's all 1 hour sessions in our YouTube channel. So if you want to subscribe to this channel, this would help you get new recordings. This call is going to be uploaded after the call. So coming up this Thursday, Becoming the Empowered You. This is a great session to discover what's holding you back internally and how you can achieve your success. And next Sunday, creating a great LinkedIn profile. And again, all those sessions will be shared by Eventbrite and streamed, and will be posted on Facebook and LinkedIn groups. So today, overcome your fear of public speaking. So the objective is identify feelings of anxiety related to public speaking, prepare the mind and body to overcome anxiety and fear before a public speech. Practice for a successful interview speech. Our speaker, Amanda Anis. Amanda grew up in rural Ottawa, a former journalism student. She turned to business development and marketing shortly after joining the workforce. After the sudden passing of her son, Amanda returned to her journalism roots and launched her own content strategy and digital public relations business brand writer co-op with a focus to help position professionals and business using authentic language and real life stories. With that, I will hand it over to you, Amanda. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Ahmed. I'm going to share this now. Looks like it's gonna work.
Yes.
Can you see anything?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, hang on. I'm gonna. Oh, hang tight.
Okay. Technology is always breaking, sometimes, Oh, now we can see it. If you
Okay.
want to put in presentation mode or bigger size,
I'm gonna
or
try.
or you can just go ahead. No worries.
I'm trying to put it. How's that?
Yeah, that's good. Very good. Okay.
Okay, great. Well, thanks everyone for having me. I'm very grateful to be here. It's a pleasure to speak to all of you. Ahmed has been very gracious in including me in this community, and I hope that I can share with you some of the tips that I have benefited from in my time as a business owner and a local entrepreneur, as well as a member of my local Toastmasters club. So what I'm sharing with you today are some tips that I have learned myself, tips that I have been provided from a local group of Toastmasters, and also input from people who are experienced and well-versed in public speaking. My business partner is a TEDx coach, and he has also contributed to some of the great tips that are in here. So my goal today is to share with you ways that you can identify and become more self-aware of some of the obstacles that get in the way of you becoming successful when you speak, not just publicly when you get up in front of a crowd, but when you want to actually sit down with somebody that you don't know. You might be in a strange or uncertain situation like an interview, and these feelings can come up and they can really sabotage the success you might otherwise have. So overcoming your fear of public speaking is more than just a speech. I want you to think bigger than that. So the goals of this are going to be to help you really identify those feelings. It's common knowledge that we know we feel anxiety. We talk a lot about this. It's really common to feel stressed and maybe even fearful of speaking when we want to get up and talk to others. But what we want to try to do is prepare ourselves in anticipation for these feelings and mitigate that by practicing. And there are so many different ways out there that we can do that, but there are some really known great ways that we can attack those feelings and lower the risk of it ruining a great outcome. And in this case, ruining a great interview or ruining a networking opportunity that might lead to success. So I'm going to go through some of those steps. And at the end, I'm also going to give you some bonus tips about how that can really help you in a targeted way with regards to an interview. So the first thing I want to talk about is, what is the difference between anxiety and fear? This seems like a no-brainer because we talk so much about anxiety and fear, and we don't often say, I'm feeling so much fear about getting up on stage, but people are fearful about getting up on stage, and they are fearful of talking to strangers. The difference is that one is real and one is perceived. So when we talk about anxiety, we're afraid of something that's going to happen. We're nervous about getting up in front of talking to people. We're nervous about going to an interview. We're concerned about what's going to happen, but fear is a real danger. There's a bear. It's coming. I can see it. It's there. That is a true fear reaction that we're feeling. But the symptoms that we feel are very similar. So we all know what that might feel like, right? It's we're about to get up on stage and our palms are sweating and our armpits are starting to feel a bit tacky and we might be getting the chills. You can have some numbness and you might even feel palpitations. That's a real possibility with anxiety. People even go to the hospital for this and they'll be shocked to learn that it's anxiety. You might feel nauseous and you're shaking. And those are all symptoms that even really experienced speakers have to overcome or even deal with still. And you'll be amazed at the ways that they use, the tips they use to overcome those. So when you're experiencing fear, you might also feel those things. But the reality is you need to identify that you're just experiencing something that's not real. When you're having anxiety over going into maybe an interview or getting up on stage, you want to make sure that you know that this is not a real danger to you. It'll help bring down that level of stress if you really acknowledge that what is about to happen is not a true danger to you. And that reminder can help lower the stress levels if you remind yourself. It's not going to make everything get better overnight or even in the few minutes before you enter a room, but it is important to remind yourself that you are not in real danger. All right, so what is so important about this? We must be able to identify what's going on inside of our bodies, because if we don't, it can really sabotage the outcome that we're going to have. The difference between that is leveraging what we know is going to happen in our bodies and sabotage. So we can choose to manage the symptoms that come up in our bodies as we're experiencing the anxiety so that we can understand it, because all anxiety is a level of energy. And the good news is you want to have energy in your body so that you can use it to your advantage. Energy is a positive thing. It'll give you more action on stage. It will give you more ability to be expressive in an interview. It will allow you to use your body to positively reinforce things you are saying and show people that you have personality. So that's an advantage to having energy. If it's not positive energy and it's feeling negative and you aren't aware of it, it can sabotage you. It can make you feel clammed up. It can prevent you from speaking and saying what you really want to say. And if you learn about what the things are that are triggering those feelings, then you can start to anticipate them before they really take root in your body and in your mind and work against you. So what are the triggers? What can we do? What do we know are very common triggers? They're probably similar for a lot of us, and these won't shock you. But once I start to explain them a little bit, you might have a few aha moments. Some of the things that cause us anxiety, particularly before we speak, are those new and unknown situations. But I think the most important thing we're going to do here is normalize this, because it is so common that we feel this way around these ideas, and there is no wrong or bad association with anxiety around these experiences. So these new and unknown situations, they're stressful. We can't anticipate what's going to happen. And it is human nature that when something is unpredictable, we feel stress. That is a common fight or flight reaction, and it is ingrained in our brains to help protect us. So it is very normal to feel this way. Do not feel inferior or lacking in any kind of professional competence when you feel this way. But it's important to know that those kinds of situations trigger you so that you can plan for that. The risk of failure. So ever since we were children, we have wanted to be victorious at something. We've wanted to achieve. We've wanted to be the best at something. We've wanted to win. It is also ingrained in us to want to overcome something. So it is natural that we have a fear of failing. And so when we get up on stage or we go into an interview, we're afraid that we're not going to do well. We're afraid that we might embarrass ourselves somehow. And nobody wants that. It is just a sheer natural human nature tendency. It is ingrained in who we are as humans. It is totally normal to have this feeling. And it makes sense that we all do. Knowing that that is a trigger of ours is also really important. So acknowledging it, normalizing it can be something we do beforehand to say, okay, I know I'm going to feel this way. I know I'm afraid of potentially embarrassing myself. It's normal. What about feeling foolish? Well, some people are great at this because they can make fun of themselves and it's one of their advantages. But other people are really concerned about looking silly or stupid or foolish, not knowing what they're talking about, especially if you get nervous and your nerves start to get the best of you. And nobody really wants that. No one wants to have, pardon me, nobody wants to look disgraceful in front of a group of people. It's very, very normal. And so you identify that as a trigger. Maybe you're talking about a complicated topic, and maybe you're nervous about the questions you'll be asked or the feedback you might be getting at the end of the Q&A or Maybe it's just going to be a big idea that you're trying to get across in front of a crowd. You do not want to look like you don't know what you're talking about. And that can be really stressful. And then the last one is the possibility of boring the people you're talking to. If I got up here and I did this, I have something to tell you today. I really hope that you like it. I really hope that you understand what I'm talking about. And then the feedback I got at the end was, she was a terrible speaker. She did not engage us at all. We were so bored. It was awful. 1 out of 5 stars. I mean, even if you didn't get that rating, but you got a sense that the people who were listening to you were not engaged at all, you would start to feel insecure. You'd start to feel like you weren't meant to be doing what you're doing. You'd be questioning yourself, and a large amount of self-doubt would creep in. So all of these are very realistic triggers, and I'm sure you can relate to them, not just when you need to get up on stage, but we're in situations where you're going in to speak to somebody that you don't know very well, or you feel like you need to prove yourself. And understanding and saying these things out loud is also a really big part of developing a plan to combat them. So what are you going to do about it? EVR. EVR. This is really interesting because when we talk about the ways you can combat anxiety and getting up on stage and talking to people you don't know, you think, I'm going to practice. Practice makes perfect. Well, practice gets you there. But there are these 3 tools that you can do, and they will make a dramatic difference in the way you show up in front of strangers when you're trying to present an idea. And the very first one is experience. So I'm going to get a little bit into practicing later, but for this round of explanation, when it comes to experience, I'm going to make some suggestions that'll kind of get you on the path to gaining experience. So the first one I suggest is to join a club, of a speaking club or any club that helps you practice getting up and talking. And Toastmasters Club is great for that. I'm a proponent of it because I'm a member, and I joined personally because I wanted help learning how to speak better in an organized way. I, for example, am very comfortable talking to strangers, no problem. But when it comes to getting up and talking on an organized topic like this, I was terrible. I did not know how to organize my ideas. I could not follow a program to get my point across, and it helped me tremendously. So joining a club like Toastmasters or Toastmasters, there's many across the city, there's many all over the world, really helps build your confidence in a safe place. So people can give you feedback, and it's really not meant to be critical and make you feel badly about yourself, but it's specifically designed to help you improve in the areas that you're not strong in already. So that would help you tremendously in areas where you might be wanting to get up and talk about your expertise, help market yourself, help network in other groups. If you're looking to get up and learn how to speak publicly, it's a great resource for you. A simpler suggestion would be to sign up for rules at work. So if you have a workplace right now, or if you have that opportunity that you can get up and talk in front of people, and if it's virtual right now, that's fine too. Maybe you guys are organizing, maybe the workplace is organizing small culture improvement opportunities, or you could take the initiative to do that. I know right now that culture is a really big topic at work, and the coffee around the water cooler idea has been floated. People are trying to find ways to reconnect. Maybe just participating in something like that will get you back into the comfort zone of being able to talk and being around people on topics that you may not have to talk about professionally, but rebuild your confidence and regain confidence around speaking with people you don't know that well. My third suggestion is to register for networking events. So right now, a lot of things are happening virtually and hopefully rebuilding back in person, but this is great for building your confidence. So it has changed a lot. Networking has become a lot more personal, which is fantastic. People care a lot more about the whole person and less about the business card. But networking events really help you step into a room and embrace the fact that communication is the goal. Even if you just speak to one person, the goal and the win there is that you have mastered the art of communicating. Whether it was good or bad, there's no win or loss. Every conversation you have in a networking event is a win for you and your confidence. The second point of EVR is visualization. This one is so powerful, and I tell people about this all the time. I have coached some of my PR clients on this, and it is so effective. And if there's one thing you take from this presentation, this has to be it. It is hugely, hugely helpful. So anytime you have to give a presentation, anytime you're going to go in and speak to somebody and it's going to be a stressful situation. And I mean, I really encourage you, if you're going to have an interview or you're going to speak to somebody who you feel might be superior to you in some way, and they probably mentally, they're just a person just like you. I always tell people that, but this is the protocol you need to follow. So when you're going through the visualization process, it's really important that you take your time and that you do this until you feel your anxiety has decreased and your confidence has increased. Because the whole point of this is to make you feel like you've mastered it. And this is backed by research. So before I get into the points, I want to tell you why this is so effective. So research has shown that vividly imagined events actually become memories. How cool is that? And so the brain and the central nervous system, they see these memories as real experiences. And as we walk ourselves through these vivid experiences in our minds, we are using a thought process that helps us, we are using, as we're mentally rehearsing our experience, we're using a thought process that that helps us create the positive outcome that we need. So we're using the cognitive fitness that we require to create the positive outcome. And the more we do this, the more it becomes a reality in our mind. And it's like neuroplasticity happening before us. It is the coolest thing. So the first thing you need to do is, you can do this right before your interview or your presentation, or you can do it a few days before or as many times as you need to in the time leading up to the stressful event. But you need to make sure that your eyes are closed, you're in a quiet place. If you meditate, this could probably be a similar situation. But it's just really important that you do it when you're focused. You close your eyes and you envision that you're being introduced to an audience, or perhaps you walk through the door, you're being introduced to your interviewer. You walk up and you sit down, or you walk up to your lectern, which is like a podium. You smile at people as you pass. Take a deep breath. A few times before beginning to speak, take a few breaths. In real life, you have to do this too. So you want to make it as real as possible. You're going to speak clearly and forcefully. And remember all the points that you wanted to make. So if you're in an interview, you want to make sure that they're asking questions and you're answering them exactly how you hoped you would. And you can see their face and they're so pleased with your answers. They understand, they're receptive to what you're saying. And they're captive. They're held captive with your answers. They're held captive with the information you're providing them. And you're using all the right hand gestures. You're being emphatic when you need to be. Your voice is being used exactly as it should. It's being projected to the back of the room, or it's being quiet when it needs to be. You're holding eye contact. You're not hesitating. And this one is so important. When you're done, when you're finished, the audience applauds. And maybe they even stand. You need to envision this. This is so key. And if it was an interview, maybe the person who interviews you stands up, reaches over and shakes your hand. This is a very important full circle, envisioning the success of it. And that prepares you physiologically to do exactly as you remember. It creates a memory of success, builds a track record that you are going to recreate in real life. There's a lot of power in this act, and I so strongly recommend you revisit this and try this for yourself. And it can happen, and you can use this in other ways as well in your life, but definitely definitely prepare for speaking and interviews with this tool. What is the R? Well, this one is a pretty common tool that I know you've probably heard, and it's highly effective. Relaxation, because we're all stressed, we're all tense when we're going into speaking, and we're all kind of tied up in a knot, especially our muscles. And breathing and relaxing those parts of our bodies that are going to keep us and prevent us from being really authentically ourselves is really helpful. So how do we alleviate that? Well, we can stretch. We can go for a walk beforehand for sure, but doing something called isometric exercise is also really effective. And what they're talking about, what the researchers have talked about in this suggestion is to tense the muscles up that you feel where you feel the areas of tension. So probably right here in your shoulders and neck, right here and here. Tense them up and release them. Tense them up and release them. And try and do that until you feel a sense of release in those muscles. It can be very effective. And also deep, deep breathing. So right in here from your diaphragm, if you can't see me, I don't know, but right here, in and out. Same with the stretching, raising your hands up and down. And all of these suggestions are all part of getting your body prepared to be relaxed and to produce a very positive and engaging experience for the person you're going to speak to and speak with, to be wholly and physically present so that your body's not trembling and you're not focused on the sweat and the tension that's going to be happening before you get on stage or before you sit down for that interview. Okay, so now we're going to get into the practice. Practicing doesn't make perfect. Practicing makes things better, and it helps you become the master that you can be. So what are the 3 things you can do for awesome results? So definitely practice in front of a mirror. Why do we do this? We do this because we want to see how we appear to our audience. We want to be as engaging as possible, and we want to be aware of anything that we're doing that's distracting from the message that we want to give people. We want to know what we're doing with our hands, what we're doing with our face. Do we have a nervous tic that we don't know about? So want to watch for those things, and we want to listen to our voice and watch our mouth and see if we're really enunciating everything correctly. Practice beyond the mirror. So doing a dry run in front of friends and family is great. And then if you have the confidence to try this and you want to aim to get here, is to do it in front of people that you don't know that well. And that's important because people who know you well will always say, that was great. And you want some feedback that is a little bit, you want constructive criticism. You want to know exactly how it lands with people you don't know, because the chances are you're going to be talking to people that you don't know, right? And then the last thing that you can do, and it's really helpful, is to make a video of yourself. Do you want to be that person with a selfie stick in your backyard? I don't know, but maybe you can sit down at your desk, just hit record on your phone, and see what it looks like when you run through a few lines. Maybe you can have a few interview questions and you read them in your head and then you answer them and see how confident you sound. See how you would answer that. Try to be as succinct as you can. Try to be as on topic as you can. What do you do when you answer that question? How do you sound? It is a great way to gauge how you sound and act when you're put on the spot. Okay, so back into the practice part. Here are some really, really good pro tips that I always offer people when they really want to know, how do I knock this out of the park? Okay, well, I'm going to get into a little bit of interview niche answers here too. So, and we can dig into these a little bit if you have questions, but I always tell people to know your audience. And really, in this day and age, there is no excuse to not know as much as possible about who you're talking to. So researching who, what, where, when, and how. You may not be able to answer all of these 5 W's, but you can definitely hit on who and what. So who are you talking to? If you're going to be in an interview, you can definitely know their title. You can definitely know how long they've been working in the company. You can know a little bit about if they have any community involvement. So you'll be able to understand who this person is, what their likes are, what is their rapport at in the company. So you have the chance to sort of understand them as a person. When you do that, you can mention or say things, if it's appropriate, that makes sense based on who they are. And knowing things about a company and a person, and even an audience when you're speaking, shows that you care. And an investment in your audience is a very big deal. It goes a long way. Without being creepy, you want to make sure that you're knowing things that are public knowledge. You don't want to go into any extra length of spy attempts, but you definitely want to search for publicly known information about who you're going to be speaking to so that you have some understanding. And also, if it comes up, then you can mention it. So know your audience as best as you can. That will be informed leverage for you. Know your topic. So if you're going into an interview and it's a job that's just a little bit outside of your expertise, do some homework. Make sure you know just enough to be able to answer questions that will make you sound competent enough to learn as you go. And that way you compare an answer with, I'm an excellent learner, here's an example, with being able to answer a little bit about the topic. It's okay if you are someone who learns as you go and you aren't a subject matter expertise on that, but you have to have done some homework on something. And if you are speaking on a topic, make sure you know it inside out. Don't get in over your head over something that you aren't an expert in. And then in order to prepare for that, make sure you go over in advance all of the key areas that you really want to impress on somebody. And what I mean by that is sometimes when we speak, we can get nervous. And when we get nervous, we forget things. And it's okay if you don't say everything that you had prepared, but there might be some really important things that you really did want to share. And I'll give you an example. When you're in an interview, one of the most powerful tools you can use is a story to exemplify one of your skills. So you might prepare yourself by saying, I might say, Amanda, I know I'm getting really, really nervous in this interview, but I have to tell them the story about the time that I helped that client save their brand when this terrible review came in, and I was able to save their family from going out of business because we were able to write a story about how they were invested and their kids were able to produce this amazing product for them because they came up with this idea. I mean, you want to make sure you preserve the most important information no matter what. So before you go into any kind of interview, make sure you set aside those nuggets of information that you absolutely want to share. That way, if everything else goes off the rails, you were committed to making sure that the most important information about yourself that's going to make you look the best gets shared no matter what. Getting organized is obviously a huge priority. So that just means planning in advance. What are you going to wear? What are you going to wear? Obviously, plan out your clothes, find out where you need to be, and what are the technical requirements so there aren't any surprises. Are you going to be using the same system? Are you going to be on the same page as your audience? What about the audio visual? You need to make sure that you're going to be where you need to be on time, parking, anything like that. Okay, so here are some bonus tips for your interviews. And what I really want to offer here are ways to succeed and be memorable for the right reasons. So some of the really easy ways, some of the really easy ways to succeed are to acknowledge, greet, and say thank you to people. So part 2 of knowing your audience is knowing who they are. So if you know who they are, you know that are they ladies? Are they honorable guests? They have titles that you should be aware of. You want to show that confidence and courtesy right off the bat. And that also will follow through into your follow-up email. If you want to say thank you for having me, thank you very much for the interview, and you'll acknowledge them again in their proper titles. Don't fear silence. So sometimes an awkward silence will fall between people, and that's okay. Or if you have planned something that you were saying and maybe you just stumble on your words, or like I just did, or you get lost in something you were saying, sometimes we start to answer a question and we realize we don't fully know the answer, so we start to use filler words and we go off on a tangent. It's okay to pause. Just pause and take a few breaths. Often we think these pauses are an eternity, but really they're probably just a few seconds. And if you just stop and take 2 or 3 deep breaths, your interviewer is probably going to appreciate that pause. You're going to consider what you said and regroup. That shows thoughtfulness and consideration, qualities that people really value. Respect the clock. So every single meeting, presentation, speech is part of somebody's schedule. That's really important to remember. So you want to provide the value and information in the time slot that you're given. And that is going to demonstrate time management, courtesy, and organization. It's really, really important because it's going to show them that you care about their day too. And so these are reasons to follow these tips because it's going to build a real positive image for you as well. And then at the end, I want to say this is really important. You need to recognize when you've done things well, and it needs to be the small things too. So you want to pat yourself on the back when you've done something that you're proud of in an interview, or you've gotten up on stage, or maybe when you did initiate a conversation with a stranger at work, or maybe you joined a networking group and you went to 1 that month, even though there was 4. It doesn't matter. You must recognize your success. It will be the building blocks of your success to come. So after you've done something, you want to go, I did this. Maybe you go celebrate by getting, your favorite beverage, or, you have like a slice of cake with your family, or just acknowledge yourself. Do something to celebrate that so that you keep going in the right direction. And I wrote here, it might not have been perfect, but you are going to be your biggest critic. You have to remember that fear and anxiety are always going to exist when we are in uncertain situations. It's a very natural reaction, but you are going to be the person who sets yourself back if you don't acknowledge your triggers and you don't want to do anything about it. And you want to damage who you are at the end by telling yourself, I did a bad job. But the truth is, your audience, whoever that may be, your interviewer or your listeners, are going to appreciate whatever you bring to the table if you're fully yourself and you've done everything you can to prepare. And I feel like everything we've covered today could be such a great starting point for you. So I want to open the floor to any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Amanda. This is definitely lots of wisdom here that we all need for anything that we do on our day-to-day life, or maybe interviews, or again presenting at work. So definitely lots of wisdom there. Thank you so much for sharing it.
No problem.
So we'll open up for Q&A. If you wanna come off mute or raise your hand, it's good to be curious. It's good to raise questions and learn from each other.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I think I asked in the chat if you are going to share the presentation.
So the presentation is gonna be, part of the recording that we already stream in YouTube. So you could, just refer back to the YouTube channel if that's okay.
Okay, put the YouTube channel in the chat then, please, because there's.
I put it there. Yeah. Okay. If you can just check the chat, I already posted the link there. Thank you, Lauren.
Thanks.
Okay. Any questions? I'm sure there's tons of questions. I could ask a lot, but I just want to give a chance for people first. Let me ask you, Amanda, so definitely, public speaking is a fear, and in previous cultures, sometimes, it's tough to speak and not burnt out, so how do you really, keep away those negative thoughts, keep away those, previous experience that you may have seen before that could hold you back from, being yourself in front of camera or maybe in front of people?
That's a good question. I mean, well, I think you touched on something that is probably a big obstacle for people, and that's if they've had a negative experience, then that's probably what's going to play over in their mind. And, my tips are about the visualization. That's why I put so much emphasis on it, because you are able to recreate memories that are positive. And what you really want to get good at is replacing negative with positive. And that takes work. Our brains remember negative because it's our way of protecting ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? It's a defense mechanism. But the best way you can combat that is to spend time envisioning your success. It can be hard because we don't feel maybe like modest, we're too modest, but it is so important to be able to walk yourself through what success can look like. So I really would say the best solution to that is to visualize your success. Visualize a great interview, visualize a great presentation. And your brain has that ability to create it as a memory. And once you do that, you're actually able to recreate that in real life. Plus, it feels really good.
Yes.
It feels really good to imagine yourself on stage and people loving what you're saying and appreciating your value.
Yeah. And you touched actually on a very good point about, creating those nuggets before the speech that you could, share them. And I kept doing this in my interviews before, that I, have my own achievements, success stories, things that I really proud of, sharing with hiring managers or interviewers. And I use them to, prepare myself to share them in the call or in the interview. So that's really a good point. Well, does anyone want to come off mute and ask question? Ramsey, go ahead.
Yeah. I just wanted to, first of all, thanks Amanda for the presentation. That was very enlightening. And I just want to maybe comment that the visualization is definitely, I completely agree with you that that's so beneficial. And you see high performance athletes using it all the time to create their future success as well. And I think it's the same applicable in public speaking and interviews, etc. So and I really like that.
Thank you.
Thank you for pointing that out. It's so good to hear people that agree with it, because I really think it's the most valuable thing that you can do.
Yeah, and the idea of actually all the points that you made in regards to practicing in front of people like friends, family, and people that you don't know as well for that constructive criticism. I can say from experience that has benefited me greatly when doing presentations, and then doing practicing in front of the mirror as well. I've done, and the more you do that, what I found is it gives me more confidence when I'm up there in the moment and actually delivering that presentation. My confidence is so much higher when I've prepared properly.
Excellent. Yeah, that's really excellent feedback. I wonder if there's anyone else who's had an experience like that they've practiced in other ways that we didn't touch on that they found really helpful.
We have Mauricio raised his hand. Oh, Ramsey, do you want to follow up first?
No, I was gonna say the only one that I haven't tried yet is recording a video. So, but now that you've mentioned it, Amanda, I'm gonna use that one in the future.
Yeah, don't do a TikTok, Ramsey.
Sorry?
Don't do a TikTok.
No. No. Although that might be a good one.
Yeah. Okay, Mauricio, do you want to come off mute and ask your question?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you, Amanda, for your presentation. It's been really informative. Yeah, I appreciate that. And my question would be if you have any specific advice for people giving a lecture, presentation, or public speech in a language they still don't master, other than, practicing. I know practicing makes the perfection, but, would you have any specific thought on that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that my advice to you would be to practice it with people that you don't know, so that you can really optimize the words that you're struggling with. And what I always tell people in the same breath is to just use really simple words. Like, use words that you do know well. Like, most people, I think, try to like, they want to sound like they're really, really intelligent. So, and we all do this. We use big words. So if you're trying to master a language, trying to master it in a speech is not the time. So stick with really simple concepts and simple words already. And that might be a good starting point, but then again, practicing it with people you don't know, so that the words you are using, you can understand if they're landing well. I mean, I really commend anybody who's giving a speech in a second language that they aren't 100% in. That's got to be a huge challenge, and I really, really admire anybody who's doing that, because it can't be easy. But those would be the two tips I have: to use simple language, because everyone will understand it clearly and everyone will appreciate that. And secondly, practicing with people you don't know in those terms, so that they can make sure that they're landing well.
Yeah, thank you, Amanda.
Amol, you had a question. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, hi. Hi all, good to see you, Ahmed. Thank you, Amanda, for the wonderful session. So I have a question. If at all I'm delivering a speech and it's not going well, the audience is not connecting for some reason, what are some of the tips you can give to get back the audience on the track?
Do you mean technically, or you meant like you're speaking and it's not going well?
The speech is not going well, not technically. It's just yeah.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'll tell you, I've been in that boat, and it happens for sure. Ahmed's laughing because he's probably seen me in meetings where I've tried things and they haven't flown. First of all, it happens. So you need to know that not every time you do it, it's going to be great. So for starters, take what's not worked. Sometimes just accept that it's not your audience, or it's not your topic, or maybe we weren't well prepared, and it has to be part of your learning experience to do better next time. The second time is to salvage it. Sometimes just literally remember we talked about, what do you do when it's an awkward pause? You take a breath. You can sometimes just abandon parts of your speech and then move on. Like, if you have to think about what it is that's not working on the fly sometimes. Like, am I trying to over-explain something? Is it because I messed up and I'm trying to continually get through this point? Sometimes you just can abandon and just move on. If it's going really poorly and you feel like you're not painting yourself in the best light, you can cut it short. You really can. And I think people also appreciate that, because then they see how you've taken lead on reading a room. Like, reading the room is also a really great skill. And by ending it, you can be, you're really showing people that you have that ability too. And so you could just wrap it up eloquently by saying, and so on that note, I just want to thank you for your time, and I want to open it up to questions, or I invite you to contact me. I'm sensing this would be a great topic to talk to you about one-on-one, or, you can try to segue into that. Again, by practicing in a group like Toastmasters, or someone who's really trained, like getting the feedback on what to do when it goes wrong, that's how you really learn how to master those situations. And the more you do it, you'll learn. But always take those experiences and replay them and say, what can I do differently? Because unfortunately, it's just not always going to go well.
Yeah,
I do want to say though that practice is good. Practice doesn't make perfect. Like, there's always going to be a component you can't control, and you want to embrace that reality, So don't beat yourself up if that happens. Great question, though. Great question.
Yeah, I remember, when I moved from the technical field to project management, and I wasn't really well prepared to do presentations, and kickoffs, for any project was a terrifying moment, for me, that I have to be on stage, I have to explain to the customer what are we going to deliver, and customer is new. I never met them before, and I have to build a relationship. I have to build a trust, and I do this through the kickoff. So I learned lots of ways to do this, just to sync up before and also, make sure that I understand the audience beforehand and, again, put things that doesn't really create lots of conflict, specifically at those kickoff meetings. So, and those were my tips that I learned, early in the days. Thank you, Amol. Thank you, Amanda. Okay, good question so far, and we have still 8 minutes. So again, feel free to come off mute. I know maybe I can call some names, but I don't want to do that. But you want to maybe come and ask your questions.
I make a suggestion. Just thinking back on that question, it's never hesitate, even when it didn't feel like it went well, for feedback. And that goes for interviews as well. If you send out a thank you as a follow-up, and even if you felt like you didn't connect with the person, and you send out a thank you and you ask for feedback, I mean, that's the #1 way to learn what could be better next time. And that's simply just saying, thank you so much for your time. I would love to know your feedback on how things went, because I'm continuously looking for self-improvement opportunities. And that can be, a poll to your audience if you have done a public speaking engagement, if it's appropriate and you have the permission to do that. And it's definitely a great thing to do when you've had an interview. People will respect the initiative you've taken. I think it really bodes well in your favor. And it'll always help you improve your speaking.
Yeah. And sometimes it's about the slides too. Like sometimes, we put so many things in one slide that we want to explain that makes it difficult for us. So I really appreciate, what you shared with us, Amanda, today, like, those small verbiage and, making us go easily with the flow with your pictures in your slides and how you presented us. So again, making it easy for people to visualize what you're sharing, and you had some good pictures in your slides that helped us, envision what you were telling as well. So that could be another reason as well. Okay, and yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
We have a question.
Oh, go ahead, Amr.
Yeah, thank you, Ahmed, and also thank you, Amanda, for this great presentation. Yeah, I have 2 questions. One of them is some of the meetings, like, for example, I went for a technical sales meeting. So I found like the manager of marketing, the manager of business, the manager of, and then it got tense. Like, I'm feeling hot that, I'm in front of those 4 managers. So what is the tip or something that I could hold during the interview to keep calm and try to stay as stable as possible? This is the first one. And the second question is there any alternative for, to practice interviews other than Toastmasters?
Great questions. Thank you. So your first question was ways that you can reduce your feelings of stress. Like you said, you feel maybe there's something you can hold on to, or like a physical thing you could do to like reduce the stress. And you described a really stressful situation, right? You said there was like 4 managers that you were, yeah. So the first thing I would say is you can learn to, okay, I don't know if this works for everybody, but you can try doing something with your hands that feels good to you. And I just get away from doing this, but you can cross your hands. The most important thing you can do though is to breathe, is to make sure you're taking deep breaths and pause between your words. Definitely. And something that I always find is helpful is being aware of where your feet are. If you don't have like the space, you can always just kind of cross your feet a little bit, and it's okay to like it's okay to jump your knee up and down, but you want to make sure that your body is calm. So you want to avoid things that are going to be like, you don't want to be up here nervous. So I find like crossing your hands is good, and then if you need to, you can always squeeze your hands. You can squeeze them, but what you don't want to do is be too like you want to watch your movements. And that's why video recording yourself is so important, because you don't want to be too visually nervous, because you want to be calm. And that's why practicing is super, super helpful. When it comes to practicing your interviews, Toastmasters is really great. In terms of mock interviews, we have the opportunity with unlimited capabilities. That's something that we actually do. So that's a great resource if you want to look into that. Ahmed can give you information on that. And it is a wonderful way to practice and get feedback and just understand what you can do better. And it's a one-on-one experience. So I really encourage that. And I think that would be like the best suggestion I can give you right now, to be honest with you. And it's really, really helpful. Had really great feedback with that, Ahmed.
Yeah. Yeah, so last session on Thursday, actually, we did a speed interview, and it was all about you practicing, you know. So again, we'll do another sessions like this where you can just come and again, you know, feel safe, you know, in a friendly environment, and you know, do what you want to, you know, do. Like, you know, try out your ways of you know, providing feedback on those questions on the interview, and think about it, and you know, show your facial expressions, and see how you move, how you you know, visualize, and how you speak fluently, and again, practice those. So we'll do definitely several sessions, and I can connect with you offline to add you to that mock interview program that we're trying to work on, that would help you also one-on-one as well. We also have a previous session by a lady who did a discussion about, you know, slides, you know, how to really do very good slides. So if you want to just visit our YouTube channel and check that session, it will also give you lots of hints about slides specifically. But again, for interviews, again, we can do one-on-ones, and we could do those speed interview sessions in the next few weeks too.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you, Ahmed.
Thank you, Amber. Okay, we're almost on time, so if there is no other questions, maybe if you want to come on camera and we can take that group selfie together, you know, and give everybody's back their Sunday, that would be great. Okay.
Yeah, look at all the beautiful faces.
Yes.
Wow, thanks for joining us this Sunday, everyone.
Yes. Okay, let me just make the large gallery mood, and then we'll take the selfie. I'll give you a few seconds if anyone else wants to join. Okay, if everybody's ready, I want to count 1, 2, 3, and then I want to see a great smile. So 1, 2, 3, and smile. Awesome, great picture, everybody. Thank you for joining us today, and enjoy the rest of the Monday. Please show up for future sessions. This has been great. Thank you, Amanda, so much for all the wisdom, all the insights. Definitely lots of experience, and looking forward to your next speech as well.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Thank
you,
you.
Ahmed. Thank you, Amanda.
Have a great
Thank you.
day. Bye.